want you to think about what was your experience of being parented. By virtue of your age, I can tell you today, you were all raised by behaviorists. Behaviorists focus on behavior as the bottom line. So I don't like the behavior, I squash it. The behavior's loud and inconvenient, I squash it. The behavior makes me feel bad as your parent, I squash it. Without any real consideration for the health and well-being of the child underneath that. I went back to some of the sort of original behaviorists, and John D. Watson is a big name, and his message was, when you are tempted to pet your child, remember that mother love is a dangerous instrument. You gotta keep them hungry. And what he meant was hungry for your love. Because if they're hungry for your love, then they will do whatever it is you want them to do. What happens if your parent was told, if you respond to them every single time, you're mollycoddling the baby? If the baby won't sleep, your job is to leave them alone to cry. These were the words of Dr. Ferber. Even if they vomit, for the crying soon will settle and they will go to sleep. Do you hear the break? The break in the bond? And if you were a highly sensitive child, you could have experienced that as very traumatic. And if you have good children, then you're a good parent. It's wild to me that we have conflated morality with child development. That's crazy. Because children behave the way that they do due to the fact that, by design, they have still immature brains. 18-month-old children are meant to chew on other humans. They bite them. Are you raising little psychopaths? No. When you're 4 years old, you're not supposed to share. You actually have no idea how to share. You won't even have the neural architecture for that for another 3 or 4 years. And we get kids who are 4 in trouble for not sharing. And then we wonder why we have whole generations of adults who feel like they're not good enough. Because we're not honoring children for who they are. We're trying to form children into who we want them to be. And then they grow up and become adults who feel like they must perform in order to be loved. Well, no kidding. Where did they get that from? You see, if you didn't have the need met early on, you will work as a grown-up to fill the hole. You will try to get the need met from outside until you realize the only way to meet the need is from the inside. Through full acceptance of self, full love of self, right? This is how you were raised. And maybe your parents didn't go to that extreme, where Watson coached parents that you shouldn't hug your children in the morning, you should offer them a handshake. And this is, by the way, this is not about pointing the finger at your parents and how they f***ed you up and now you're grown-ups and now you get to heal all their shit, right? That's not what it's about. Because our parents did the very best that they could with the knowledge that they had for the time that they were raising you in. So this is not an exercise of going home and blaming your parents. Please never ever have that conversation with them. It is not their story, it is yours. Because now it lives in you. So what we know from the science of child development now is that we must honor children for the very ones that they are. We've got to show up and make sense of children, not through this lens of morality, but rather through the lens of development. Children are children. They are not tiny adults. You cannot, by downward extension, take the expectations that you will eventually have of your children as adults and apply them to them now. Oh, if I'm generous with you, you'll get the greedy gimmies and you're going to grow up to be a greedy adult. No! Be generous with children because it inspires them to grow up and be generous adults. If a child is having a meltdown, you want to know what they need most from their big people? They need connection, compassion, empathy. They need an invitation for all of that nasty stuff to come out, because better out than in. That which stays in festers and comes forth later in uglier ways. You don't want them to bottle that up inside. You want them to barf that all out and now. So that when they become adults, they have learned how to deal with their big emotions. They have figured out what it is to self-regulate on the inside, because you actually grew for them a brain that was capable of that. And how did you grow for them a brain capable of self-regulation? You regulated them from the outside. And so when we know better, we do better. I think if we could show up just one generation of big people, parent or not, who would look upon children with eyes that really see them, there would be no more war. There would be no more terrorism. We would change the world.